So I just found out what is wrong with my channel. I've tried to address it many times. For some reason, the problem just keeps getting worse. No matter how I address it, how I try to correct it, what I do to fix it. It just seems to me that I'm going to end up losing my channel over this because, and this is a direct quote, because of my girlish behavior. I didn't realize that in order to be a man, you had to sit in front of a camera and go, I tell you, this is how it's gonna be done. I just try to live off grid, you know, do some solar panel stuff and my own water. I try to be ingenuitive as much as possible, try to come up with different ideas and out of the box ideas, because apparently, and this is kind of paraphrasing, this is not a direct quote, but all the feminism that is going on with men nowadays, I don't want to say what they said, apparently my fault because I am showing how to be a girl more than how to be a man. Today's youth needs men to show them how to be men. They need father figures. In order to get through this video, I would like for everybody, even if you don't like the video, to try to watch it all the way through. Even if you don't want to watch it, just set your phone down, let it play. Try to play it at regular speed, not on high speed, because there are other people out there who will get some information out of this before, you know, it shuts down my channel. And I'd like to get it out to as many people as possible before it happens. And then if you'll maybe give a thumbs up, possibly comment, and even share. You know, there's a little share button right underneath the video here. Hit the share button, send it to Facebook or, you know, whatever you like. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure anybody else that wants to watch this video will appreciate that they get a chance to watch it before my whole channel shut down because of my inherent girliness. So obviously I'm being a little sarcastic, but again, I'd like for you to do all those things for me because we're going to can some chicken again today. There are men out there who absolutely hate these videos, doesn't understand why we do it, and truly thinks that I should be doing dehydration or smoking. Smoking's a big one. Everybody thinks I should be smoking. But none of those things preserve food as good as canning or for as long. Dehydration actually would do pretty good, but you gotta vacuum seal it into a vacuum bag, and that runs up cost dramatically. We've tried to salt cure before, and the meat lasts about a month, but it still goes bad. Problem is there's still moisture in the food, and you're not keeping out the bacteria. So when you can, you kill all the bacteria, and then you vacuum seal it so no more bacteria can get in there. But just like salt cure, smoking leaves some moisture in the food. And I know people are gonna say, well, the people in Alaska do it all the time. I know they do it all the time, but you got to think about something. It's cold in Alaska, and you can preserve things a little bit better in the cold. That is my only theory, because even YouTube channels who do the smoking for preservation will caution you that it's still dangerous. You could still lose meat. So it's just a myth that this is a long time, and I know I'm going to get so many comments, that's not true. I do it, and I'm still alive even though I've had E. coli poisoning 30,000 times. First of all, I don't think I make boring canning videos. I keep it fast paced, move right along. I show you maybe how to fill one jar or how to screw on a lid on one jar. If you want to see that again, you can just rewind the video, but I'm sure that you only need to see it once. Whereas a lot of these canning videos, they'll fill each jar, all 20 jars on video, and you got to watch a 45-minute video of them sitting there breathing. So I got up 4:30 this morning and I cooked the chicken. Now we got these 10-pound bags of chicken that save a lot. You can get them at Walmart too for like $8.99 right now. That's what we bought these for. Earlier, a few months ago, it was $6.99. They fluctuate in price a lot, actually. They can go anywhere from $4.99 to $10.99. And then we deboned it, and so all I'm going to do now is fill the jars with chicken. I got a funnel here that fits inside it. You can get these off Amazon. There's actually kits of canning tools that you can buy pretty cheap, especially now that they're plastic. What we're going to do is we're going to fill it up right up to the bottom of that lip there. It's hard to see, but there's a lip. We're gonna fill it right there. I've been filling it a little extra full in the last few canning videos because we've been using tattle lids. And we're gonna fill this jar up to that ring, and then the next step we'll put broth into it. I had a 100% success rate with the pork the last time I did it. One of the things I did differently though is I overpacked, at least in my mind, the jar. I filled it too full, and I packed it pretty tight. The problem with that is it will discolor your food. I learned this a long time ago when I was doing corn, and it turned it a little bit of a brown. Same thing happened with the pork. It turned it a little bit brown, but the taste doesn't change. So I think that you have to pack it, it says loosely pack, to keep it from discoloring. I don't care about the discoloring. I want those Tattler lids to work because they're free, they're reusable. The rubber gasket lasts 10 uses, and we got enough to last the rest of our lives. So I want these to work because the lids are so expensive. I bought a dozen of them at Dollar General, which was fairly cheap compared to Amazon, and they were over $3. You're adding cost to your food. So I overpacked them, is my point, which means I have 7 jars that remain empty. My canner holds 10. I have 13 that are full of meat, 7 that are not. I got 2 canners, so that's 20 jars that I can put into it. So since I have so many left over, I'm going to fill these with broth. Now somebody asked me a question, how do you make broth? Well, the broth is the water that you boil the chicken into. So I already filled the quart jars with broth. I can can these up. The canner holds 7 quarts, 10 pints. So I got 14 quarts filled up with broth. I have some broth left over in the pan. The thing is you also have to put broth in the jar with chicken to fill it up, to get all that air out of there, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I got my funnel and broth. I always try to put this in the sink. That way if I have spillage, it spills into the sink and not all over the floor. This has been so much easier since we started doing it in the camper here instead of the back porch. So you fill it up to that line I was showing you earlier. Now in your package of tools that you buy off Amazon with the funnel comes this knife. You want to use plastic knife, that way you don't break your jar. And what you're doing here is you're trying to get all the air bubbles out of your chicken. As the air bubbles float up to the top, your water level will drop, but you want your water level up to that line. Okay, so now that I have all my jars filled up with broth and chicken, or broth, depending on the situation, I've taken a washcloth and I'm going to put apple cider vinegar on it, and now I'm going to clean the lip of the jar to make sure there's nothing on it, no grease, no chicken particles, no dirt, no hair, anything. If this is not clean, the rings will not seal. Now at the same time of doing that, I'm going to simmer my lids and my rings. By the time that is done, by the time I get all the jars cleaned, these should be simmering. I don't know how important it is with Tattler lids. The older metal lids, you had to bring to a simmer. The newer metal lids, they say you don't have to. But I don't really care. It seems to me it's going to soften the rubber up a little bit and help it out, it seems to me. Also, it doesn't hurt to sanitize it. Okay, now that the jars are clean, I'm going to start getting the canner ready just for a minute, because the lids are still simmering, so I can't work with the lids just yet. So I'm going to put 3 quarts of water into the canner. I'm also going to take the lid, and it has a ring, a little gasket right here. I'll take that out just for a minute. And then I'm going to take some lard and lubricate this ring. That way you can preserve it for as long as possible. I believe you have to replace these every 3 years is what the instruction says. I have an extra pack of these. I always keep them around just in case something happens to one of them. I probably should have 2, but I have an extra one. And then you just place that back into the lid. The simmering is done with the lids and the rings. So I'm going to take out a ring and a lid out of the water. And it's very hot. The only downside to Tattler rings is they're plastic. This has a magnet on the back of it. When you're using metal lids, you can stick that magnet to it so it doesn't burn you. So I'm going to put the ring on the lid just like that. I'm going to hold it like that. Now, something I usually don't mention. I always do a little prep work the day before. One of the things I do is I make sure this is good and clean, even new ones, because the new ones actually has a little bit of film on it. Yesterday I used a scratch pad, a greenie, Scotch-Brite I think they're called. I had been using washcloths, but I think the greenie did a better job. We'll see. So when you put this on, you hold it with both fingers and you set it on the jar, ensuring that you can see that ring all the way around the jar. You don't want it to have fallen inside the jar, so you can see that red all the way around it. Now, a little thing I've been doing here recently is I've been taking a little dip of lard off of my finger, and I've been putting it on the lid itself, right here on the edge. When it comes out of the canner, if the jar isn't boiling, you'll see it boiling, which means that it probably has sealed. Because it's under a vacuum, liquid will boil at a cooler temperature than normal, which is 212 degrees, under a vacuum. Well, if it's not boiling, you got to tighten this. Well, when you tighten it and then loosen it again, it appears to me that it breaks the seal because that metal is gripping that plastic lid. So I put the lard on there to kind of give it a little bit of lubrication, so when you loosen it, it doesn't break the seal. Now, the trick to these lids is when you put your ring on it, you take your two fingers and you just tighten it until the jar spins, and that's all you got to do. Okay, so both canners are loaded now. I've got the flame on, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until it starts steaming out of this little porthole right here. When it starts steaming, then I'm going to let it steam for 10 minutes. That way all the air comes out of the canner and all you have is steam in there. Okay, so they've been steaming for 10 minutes, so I'm going to put the jiggler on. And the jiggler has different weights depending on your altitude. We're at above 1,000 feet, so we have to use all three weights if I can get them apart here. So there's one weight and then two weights. So it's, I think, 5, 10, 15 pounds, like that. So we use all three. You got to check your instructions and your altitude. You're going to put that on. So then these tabs popped up. It tells you now that the canner is under pressure. Don't remove it, it's going to pop you in the face. So now you can see that they're jiggling. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sit here for, I don't know, about 5 minutes trying to adjust the flame down so they're not jiggling really fast. So this one is just about right. That one seems like it's still jiggling pretty fast. And the reason you do that is that 3 quarts of water that I put in there, you don't want to boil that off and have nothing left at the end of the hour and 15 minutes that you're going to let this process. Also, the higher the flame, the more propane you're using. So just as well turn it down. So the problem is what you don't want to do is turn it down so low that this thing stops jiggling and you don't realize it. What happens is you turn down the burner, it jiggles for a while because there's still pressure in the canner. But as that pressure starts to decrease, if I leave, that may stop jiggling in 5 minutes. So you want to stay around to make sure it doesn't stop jiggling. The hour and 15 minutes has elapsed. We are done cooking it. So what we're going to do is we're going to shut off the flame. And now we're going to sit here and we're going to wait until these tabs fall down. These tabs right here will fall down once the pressure releases. Okay, so the tabs have dropped. So I'm going to remove the jiggler. We're going to wait 10 minutes before we take them out of the canner. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. So we're going to remove the lid. I'm going to take the jars out. Now, what I'm looking for is the contents, the liquid inside the jar still boiling. If it's boiling, then we know it's sealed. If it's not boiling, then I'm going to tighten the ring. Now, last time I showed this, it did show up. So I'm going to turn it a little bit so you can see. You might be able to see it. It's hard to see in the camera. So I'm not going to do anything to it except set it on the counter. Okay, so this one did not seal. This is just a jar of broth. I'm concerned about that because I've done tattler lids with broth in the past and none of them work. So if it doesn't work, we'll freeze them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little turn on the ring. That should help seal it. Okay, so we had 4 chicken and 2 broth that were not bubbling. I had to tighten that came out. It wasn't too bad. So I won't know until tomorrow. We'll have to wait 24 hours for that to cool off and settle down. And then we'll take the rings off. We'll see if they sealed. If not, I can pressure can them again. So really good success rate today is my point. And the thing is I know at least some of those over there will seal. Not all of them will fail, if any of them. So I hope I can inspire you to be a wussy so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.